After she left me sitting there, I didn't move for a long time. The silence in the living room was absolute, but my head was roaring. The ball is in your court. She'd framed it like a choice between forgiveness and destruction, when really, the destruction was already complete. She'd just hired me as the cleanup crew. That clear, cold certainty hardened into a plan. I wasn't going to be managed anymore. I wasn't going to be gaslit into couples counseling, where we'd spend $200 an hour debating whether my emotional neglect justified her banging Chase Reynolds. I went to the home office, the one we shared. I felt like a stranger in my own house, a spy. I logged into our joint computer. I didn't hunt for more evidence of the affair, I had enough. Instead, I started documenting. I took photos of the hotel receipt with my phone. I screenshot the phone bill pages, highlighting the frequency and duration of calls to Chase's number. I wrote down a timeline of every lie I could remember, the fake spin classes, the Phantom Girls nights with Amber, the networking dinner. Then, I did the thing that made it all feel terrifyingly real. I Googled family law attorneys near me. I read reviews. I picked 3 that specialized in complex divorces and sent brief, blunt inquiry emails from my personal account, not our joint one. Asterisk, potential client. 12-year marriage, 2 children, infidelity discovered, need to understand options and protect parental rights. Please advise on consultation. Asterisk. Sending those emails felt like committing a treason. But it was also the first thing I'd done for myself in months. The next morning was Saturday. The kids were buzzing with weekend energy. Jessica performed Happy Family with Oscar-worthy skill. She made waffles. She suggested we all go to the park. She laughed a little too loudly, touched my arm a little too casually. The performance was for the kids, but it was also for her. She was trying to make her new narrative real, though we had a little rough patch, but we are working on its story. I played along, for the kids. But I was studying her, seeing the mechanics of the performance. The way her smile didn't reach her eyes when she looked at me. The constant, subtle checking of her phone, which was now never out of her sight. At the park, while she was pushing Emma on the swing, my phone vibrated. An email reply from one of the lawyers, Robert G. Farnsworth. Mr. Thompson, I have availability for a confidential consultation Monday at 10 a.m. Please call my assistant to confirm. My advice until then, do not move out of the marital home. Do not engage in heated arguments. Secure important documents. Keep a log of events. Do not make any large financial changes. The solid, practical tone of the email was an anchor. This was a problem that could be managed, not just endured. That night, after the kids were in bed, the mask slipped again. Jessica cornered me in the kitchen as I was loading the dishwasher. Well, she asked, arms crossed. Well, what? Are we going to try? Are you going to call a counselor on Monday? I closed the dishwasher and turned to face her. I need time to think, Jessica. You dropped a nuclear bomb on our life. You don't get to set the timetable for the cleanup. Her face tightened. So you're just going to punish me? Freeze me out? That's your plan? To make me pay forever? No, I said, my voice eerily calm even to my own ears. My plan is to figure out what's best for me and for my children. Right now, I don't know what that is. And until I do, we are going to coexist as politely as possible for their sake. That means no more performances. No more fake touches. We are roommates and co-parents. Nothing more. She looked stunned, then furious. She was used to directing the emotional traffic of our marriage, her outbursts, her cold shoulders, her manufactured reconciliations. My calm, declarative statements were a script she didn't know. Fine, she spat. Be that way. But don't think you're blameless in all this, Mark. You checked out long before I did. I just nodded. Noted. I walked away, leaving her standing in the kitchen. For the first time, I felt a sliver of control. It was fragile, but it was mine. The emotional hurricane was still raging, but I had finally found the door to the storm cellar. Monday morning, I told Jessica I had a dentist appointment. The lie tasted like acid, but it was necessary. My sister, Lisa, came over to be with the kids so Jessica could go to work without suspicion. The normality was a farce. Sitting in Robert G. Farnsworth's office felt surreal. Plush chairs, expensive art, a view of the city. He was in his 50s, with a calm, no-nonsense demeanor. He steepled his fingers as I laid it out, the timeline, the evidence, her confession about Chase, her subsequent lies about ending it. First, he said, his voice steady, I'm sorry you're going through this. It's a profound betrayal. Second, you're doing the right things so far. Documentation is key. Your goal now is to transition from emotional reaction to strategic action. He outlined the cold, hard realities. In our state, infidelity could impact alimony, but it didn't guarantee anything. The primary focus would be the kids, assets, and financial support. He asked blunt questions about our accounts, mortgages, debts. I realized how much I'd deferred to Jessica on the details. She handled the bills, the investments. Another wave of humiliation hit. I was the clueless husband in every way. Do not move out, he reiterated. It can be construed as abandonment. Establish a new normal within the home. Be the stable, present parent. The court looks favorably on that. Given her behavior, we may want to consider a temporary custody order once we file. File? The word was a cannonball. If reconciliation is not a viable path, yes. The process is to file for divorce, then we often pursue a temporary orders hearing to establish custody, child support, and who stays in the house while the divorce is pending. Based on what you've told me about her volatility and deception, we'd have a strong argument for you to remain in the home with the children. He made it sound like a military campaign. In a way, it was. My marriage was now a theater of war. I left his office with a retainer agreement and a list of tasks: gather tax returns, bank statements, retirement account info, and continue the log. The weight of it was immense, but so was the purpose. I went home, my mind churning. Lisa had left. The house was quiet. A strange impulse hit me. I went to the kitchen trash can. It had been emptied this morning. I walked out to the large bin in the garage. The bag from the kitchen trash was on top. I felt disgusting, but I had to know. I pulled the bag out and opened it. Coffee grounds, yogurt cups, banana peels. And there, near the top, was a wad of receipts from a boutique grocery store. I smoothed them out. One was from Saturday afternoon, the day after our talk, the day of the park performance. It wasn't just for groceries. Alongside the milk and bread were two charges: a $98 bottle of Silver Oak Cabernet and $45 for artisanal chocolates. A timestamp, 4:32 p.m. A note on the receipt, gift bag yes. My heart turned to stone. She hadn't gone to the grocery store Saturday. She'd said she was getting essentials. This wasn't for us. We never bought wine that expensive. This was a gift. For him. Then, beneath that receipt, I found another. A crumpled dry cleaning ticket. For a man's dress shirt. Picked up Friday. A man's dress shirt. The pieces clicked with horrifying clarity. The gift, the shirt. She was seeing him that Saturday. Probably after the park. She'd bought him a romantic gift and picked up his cleaning. This wasn't a grieving mistress ending a fling. This was a woman in a full-blown, caring relationship. She was doing his domestic chores. I took photos of the receipts with my phone, my hand steady now, all emotion funneled into this single task. That evening, I tested the waters. As she was scrolling on her phone on the couch, I asked, casually, "How was your day?" "Fine. Busy," she said, not looking up. "Do anything interesting after work?" She glanced at me, suspicious. "No. Just came home." "Why?" "No reason. Thought maybe you ran some errands." "Just the usual," she said, turning back to her phone. The lie was so effortless. I looked at her, this beautiful stranger in my living room, and I felt nothing but a distant, cold pity. The woman I loved was truly gone. In her place was a skilled illusionist, but I was no longer in the audience. I was backstage, watching the cheap tricks and the hidden wires. My grief was finally being eclipsed by resolve. The emotional impact was now a fuel. She wasn't sorry. She was just sorry she got caught. And she had no intention of stopping. The receipts were a turning point. The grief and confusion were now fully compacted into a single, burning objective: uncover the full truth, no matter how ugly. I needed to see the financial trail. I realized how passive I'd been, letting Jessica manage everything. That ended now. Late that night, after I was sure she was asleep, I logged into our shared online banking portal. We had a joint checking account for household bills, but we also had separate personal accounts from before we were married. I rarely looked at mine, and never at hers. But the login was saved on the computer. I started with the joint account. Scrolling through the past 3 months was like reading a secret diary of my own betrayal. There were dozens of small charges I hadn't noticed: boutique coffee shops across town near her gym, high-end wine stores, a florist charge for $120, I hadn't seen any flowers in our house, and 2 more dinner charges at restaurants miles from where she'd said she was. Then I opened the PDF of the most recent credit card statement, the card she used for household and personal expenses. My blood ran cold. There, on a Friday afternoon 3 weeks ago, was a charge for the Grove Hotel. Not just the restaurant. The hotel. For $287. A one-night stay. The Thursday networking dinner had been an overnight. I must have made a sound, a choked gasp in the quiet office, because I heard a floorboard creak upstairs. I quickly closed the tabs, shut down the computer, and pretended to be looking for a book on the shelf. Jessica appeared in the doorway, her silhouette backlit by the hall light. "What are you doing?" she asked, her voice thick with sleep and suspicion. "Couldn't sleep. Thought I'd find something to read." In the dark. My eyes adjusted. She stared at me for a long moment. "You're being weird, Mark. This silent, brooding thing is getting old. We either fix this or we don't. But this limbo is pathetic." She turned and went back upstairs. The insult, pathetic, hung in the dark room. It didn't hurt anymore. It was just data. It confirmed her contempt. The next day, I took a personal day from work. I told Jessica I was going hiking to clear my head, a plausible story, as I used to hike often. Instead, I drove to a generic strip mall, bought a cheap prepaid phone with cash, and then parked near her office building downtown. I felt like a private eye in a bad movie, but the stakes were my life. Around 1 p.m., I saw her leave her building. She wasn't alone. She was with a man. Tall, fit, wearing a sleek athletic jacket. Chase. Even from a distance, their body language screamed intimacy. The way he touched her lower back to guide her across the street. The way she threw her head back laughing at something he said. They walked into a sleek salad place together, a place she'd told me she hated because it was overpriced rabbit food. I sat in my car, gripping the steering wheel. The theoretical was now a physical reality in front of me. The ended affair was having a lunch date. An hour later, they emerged. They paused by his car, a flashy black SUV. And then, in broad daylight in a public parking garage, they kissed. Not a peck. A deep, lingering kiss. Her hand went to his cheek. It was a kiss of familiarity, of routine. I took out the prepaid phone. My hands were steady. I took photos. They were grainy, but unmistakable. I felt hollow. There was no more rage, just a profound, weary sadness. That evening, I decided to flip the script. I waited until we were both in the kitchen, the kids watching TV in the other room. "How was your day?" I asked, leaning against the counter. "Fine. Long? You? Did your hike help?" she asked, not looking up from chopping vegetables. It was enlightening. I did a lot of thinking about trust. About how when it's gone, it's just gone. She shrugged. Trust takes time to rebuild. I guess it does. "So, how was lunch?" She froze, the knife hovering over a bell pepper. "Lunch? I had a sad desk salad at my computer, like usual." "Really? At Fresh and Greens. The place you say is for pretentious idiots. She slowly put the knife down and turned to face me, her eyes wide and wary. What is this? I drove downtown today. Needed to think. Saw you going into Fresh and Greens. With Chase. You looked happy. You kissed him goodbye like it was the most natural thing in the world. After you told me it was over. All the color left her face. Then, the mask slammed down, harder than ever. Her expression turned to one of pure, outraged victimhood. You followed me. You are stalking me now. This is unhinged, Mark. I can't believe you. That wasn't a date. He was in the area, we ran into each other, and he was upset because I ended it. He was crying. I was comforting him. The kiss was a mistake, a goodbye kiss. You're twisting everything. I just stared at her, letting the absurdity of the lie hang in the air. He was crying. So you're his therapist, too. And his dry cleaner. I said it quietly. What? The shirt. The one you picked up from the cleaners on Friday. Was that you comforting him, too? By doing his laundry. For the first time, she looked truly cornered. She had no script for this. The lies were becoming too numerous to track. She opened her mouth, closed it, then picked up the knife again, turning back to the peppers with vicious, chopping strokes. Get out of the kitchen, she hissed. You're toxic. You're trying to trap me. I don't have to explain every innocent interaction to you. Innocent, I repeated. I didn't move. You're right, Jessica. You don't have to explain anymore. I walked out, leaving her chopping in furious, silent rage. The confrontation was over. I had what I needed. I had seen it with my own eyes. The last thread of hope, the last maybe she's telling the truth, was severed. All that remained was the practical, brutal business of ending our marriage. I met with Robert G. Farnsworth again 2 days later. This time, I brought the grainy photos, the printed credit card statement with the hotel charge highlighted, and the photos of the gift receipt and dry cleaning ticket. I laid them out on his polished desk like a prosecutor presenting exhibits. This shows a pattern of ongoing deception and marital dissipation of assets, he said, nodding with what might have been grim approval. The hotel charge is particularly clear. We have what we need to file. The next step is to decide how you want to proceed with service. He explained the options: have her served at work for maximum impact and to establish a clear boundary, or at home, which might be less explosive, but more complicated with the kids around. I thought about her performance, her lies, the way she'd called me pathetic and toxic. I thought about her kissing Chase in broad daylight. Serve her at work, I said, my voice flat. She's built her entire narrative there, the successful, put-together professional. Let's see how she maintains it when the process server shows up. Farnsworth scheduled it for the following Tuesday. He also advised me to open a new, individual bank account, and to move half of the liquid funds from our joint savings into it. It's your money too, and this prevents any unilateral draining of assets. Do it the morning of the service, after she's left for work. The plan was set. The logistics felt like preparing for a siege. I packed a small bag with essentials and some sentimental items and stored it in my trunk, just in case things went nuclear, and I needed to leave for a night. I made copies of all the kids' important documents. I was a ghost in my own home, moving silently through the motions of family life while preparing for its dissolution. The Friday before D-Day, the confrontation I'd been waiting for finally happened, but on her terms. The kids were to sleep over at my sister Lisa's house, a pre-planned fun night that now provided the perfect battleground. Jessica had been drinking wine. Not her usual glass, but most of a bottle. She found me in the living room, staring at the blank TV screen. We need to talk for real, she said, her words slightly slurred. This can't go on. I can't live with this wall. I turned to look at her. What do you want to talk about? Us? You've given up. You're not even trying. I said I was sorry, I said it was over, and you're just holding it over my head like a weapon. What do you want from me, Mark? To beg. I took a slow breath. I want the truth, Jessica. The whole truth. For once. I've told you the truth. No. You've told me convenient lies. The affair isn't over. You're still seeing him. You bought him wine and chocolates last Saturday. You pick up his dry cleaning. You had a hotel room with him last month. You kissed him on Tuesday. So let's start with the true thing. Are you in love with him? The wine had lowered her inhibitions. The raw, unfiltered truth flashed in her eyes before the defiance returned. She took another gulp. What if I am? What does it matter? You killed us years ago. You stopped trying. You think a marriage survives on autopilot. Chase makes me feel alive. He wants me. You just occupy space next to me. There it was. The final, brutal honesty, weaponized to hurt me. It did, but in a distant, clinical way. The wound was already so deep this was just probing the bone. So you're in love with him, I repeated. Yes? Okay. Are you happy now? You broke me, and he put me back together. I deserve to be happy. And our children. Do they deserve to have their family broken apart for your happiness? Don't you dare use them as a guilt trip, she screamed, throwing her wine glass into the fireplace. It shattered with a violent, satisfying crash. You think this sham of a family is better for them? Two parents who don't love each other. I'm showing them what it means to pursue happiness. I stood up, looking at the glittering shards in the hearth. No, Jessica. You're showing them what it means to be a liar and a coward. You're showing them that commitments are optional, and that your own gratification is more important than their stability. You didn't come to me and say you were unhappy. You didn't ask for counseling. You didn't ask for a divorce. You chose to cheat, to lie, and to blame me for it. That's the lesson. She was seething, tears of rage in her eyes. Get out. Get out of this house. I shook my head, the calm in my voice fueling her fury. No. This is my home, too. I'm not leaving. You don't get to have the affair and the house and the moral high ground. The party is over. I walked past her, toward the stairs. As I reached them, she hurled her final, pathetic spear. You'll never find anyone who loves you. You're an empty, boring shell. Chase and I are going to be so happy, and you'll die alone. I paused, halfway up the stairs, and looked back at her, standing amidst the wreckage of her own making. I hope he's worth it, Jessica. I truly do. Because you've traded everything for him. I went to the guest room and locked the door. I could hear her sobbing, raging, throwing things in the living room below. But for the first time, I felt nothing. No desire to comfort her, no anger, no fear. Just a vast, quiet emptiness. The emotional impact had finally burned through everything, leaving only ash and resolve. The war was no longer cold. It was declared. And on Tuesday, the first official shot would be fired. Tuesday morning arrived. The plan was in motion. I got the kids ready for school, my movements robotic. Jessica was nursing a hangover, her eyes red-rimmed and avoiding mine. The silent treatment had returned, heavy and thick in the kitchen. I'm leaving a bit early, I said, my voice neutral. Got a project kickoff. She just grunted, sipping her coffee. As soon as I was sure she'd left for her office, I drove to the bank. Sitting in the parking lot, I logged into our joint savings account online. I transferred exactly 50% of the balance into the new, individual account I'd opened. The transaction felt both terrifying and empowering. I was surgically separating a life. The notification would hit her phone, but by then, it would be too late. Next, I texted Robert Farnsworth's assistant, green light for today. The confirmation came back instantly, process server en route. Expected at her office at 10:15 a.m. I went to work, but I was useless. I stared at my computer screen, watching the clock. At 10:17 a.m., my personal phone lit up. It was Jessica. I let it go to voicemail. It rang again. And again. A flood of texts began to bombard my screen. Jessica, what have you done? Jessica, a process server just came to my office. In front of my team. Jessica, you embarrassed me. You are a small, petty man. Jessica, and you stole money from our account. You thief. Jessica, answer your phone, you coward. I put my phone on Do Not Disturb, silencing the notifications. The rage in her texts was palpable. The performance had been shattered in the worst possible way for her, publicly, in her professional domain. I felt no pleasure, only a grim sense of necessity. At 11:30 a.m., my office line rang. It was our home number. I knew the kids were at school. I picked up. Her voice was a venomous hiss, low and controlled, which was somehow worse than screaming. You think you're so clever? You humiliate me. Fine. Game on, Mark. If you think you're getting anywhere near the kids after this stunt, you're delusional. I'll tell the court you're unstable. A stalker. I have the texts where you admitted to following me. I'll make sure you get supervised visits only. You will never be alone with them. A cold terror, deeper than any I'd felt yet, gripped my spine. She was going to weaponize the children. This was the line I never thought she'd cross. You listen to me, I said, my voice low and steady, channeling every ounce of the calm I'd learned from Farnsworth. You brought this on yourself. Every lie, every betrayal. You want a war over our children. You will lose. I have documented every single lie. The hotel receipts, the credit card statements, the photos of you and Chase kissing. I have witnesses to your behavior. You threaten me with my kids again, and I will file for full custody and use every piece of evidence to show the court exactly what kind of liar and manipulator you are. Try me. There was a stunned silence on the other end. I had never spoken to her like this, as an adversary, with equal force. She was used to my compliance or my emotional collapse. This was new. You took pictures. Her voice was a whisper. I did what I had to do to protect myself from your fiction. The papers are served, Jessica. It's over. Our only communication now should be about logistics for the kids. Anything else goes through my lawyer. Don't call me again unless it's a genuine emergency involving Lucas or Emma. I hung up. My hands were trembling, but my mind was clear. The emotional impact had just escalated to a new, more terrifying plane, the fight for my children. The sadness over the lost marriage was now a distant luxury. A primal, protective instinct had taken over. The texts that followed over the next hour showed her rapid shift in tactics, cycling through the stages of grief for her own narrative. Jessica, you've destroyed this family. Anger or blame. Jessica, we could have fixed this. I would have really ended it. Bargaining. Jessica, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Please don't do this. False contrition. Jessica, you're going to regret this. More anger. I didn't respond to any of them. I forwarded the threatening one about the kids directly to Farnsworth with a note, documenting this threat to my parental rights. When I picked up the kids that afternoon, I was braced for another performance. But she wasn't home. She'd texted, working late. A lie, undoubtedly, but a convenient one. That night, as I read to Emma, the reality of my decision settled in. It wasn't just about ending a marriage. It was about embarking on a grueling, expensive, and soul-wrenching legal battle with the person I once trusted most. The path ahead was a minefield. But for the first time, I was walking it with my eyes wide open, no longer blinded by her lies or my own hope. The shock was gone. The anger was now a tool. The sadness was compartmentalized. The acceptance was this: I am at war. And I will win the only things that truly matter, my integrity and my children. To be continued.